My name is Elena Mae Sutton, and I'm 29 years old. If you'd asked me on Saturday night what love looked like, I would have pointed at the way the sunset slid across the fountain in the botanical gardens, and how the crowd went quiet when the music swelled. I would have told you about the small box in my palm, the engraved inside of a platinum band meant for him, and the way his face broke open, surprise, awe, a little tremble, when I asked the question, every movie saves for its brightest moment. He said yes. He said yes, and the strangers around us clapped, and the gardeners who'd helped me tuck peonies into hidden vases cheered, and my hands shook so hard I nearly dropped the band before I slid it onto his finger. Logan Pierce, 27, the man I'd loved for 4 years, kissed me by the fountain at golden hour. He posted 12 photos and 3 short clips before we even left the gardens. She asked, I said yes, he wrote. Best moment of my life. His mother, Diane, called me crying. We FaceTimed with my cousin. We ordered takeout and ate on the floor. He fell asleep with the lid of the bandbox in his hand like a talisman. Sunday, he wore the band everywhere. Monday, he wore it to lunch and angled it toward the window because the light made it look like a promise with edges. Tuesday, he asked me to help him pick a caption for a reel. Wednesday, at 2:16 p.m., while I was in a budget review meeting, my phone began to buzz like something alive. At first I thought, client emergency, but the banner said Logan plus the boys. I had forgotten I was in that chat. 2 years ago, they'd added me to plan a surprise birthday for him, and then it went dormant except for fantasy draft trash talk and the occasional meme. I never left. I never mattered in there. Until I did. Logan. Okay, confession time. The proposal? Kinda cringe. Brandon. No way. Nate. Bro, the band is clean though. Kyle. Gardens? 2005 called. Logan. Exactly. Plants and fountains. Meanwhile, Derek did a yacht. Tyler went Paris rooftop. I get hydrangeas. My heart didn't drop. It stalled. I read each bubble like it belonged to a language I'd learned once and then forgot. Logan. I said yes because what was I going to do? Say no in front of a crowd? Brandon. Public proposals are traps. Classic. Logan. The band's sick, not gonna lie. And the watch? Keeping both through the holidays. Might as well milk the engagement gifts. Kyle. Content, clout, brand deals, baby. Logan. And I already told her to slow play the date. 2 years minimum. Rent-free life? Let's go. There are sounds your throat makes when it's trying not to make any at all. The meeting continued. Numbers rolled across the screen. My boss asked for a projection. I said I'd follow up. The blood in my ears wrote its own minutes. When the chat went quiet for a breath, I typed nothing. I scrolled. There was more. Logan. I dropped Four Seasons hints for months. Thought she'd go viral, rooftop, drone, fireworks. Instead, I got suburban mom vibes. Nate. El Mayo. Brandon. Post a throwback to the Paris trip with Amanda. Show them how it's done. Logan. LOL. Remember Amanda's friend who got proposed to at the Eiffel Tower? That's the bar. I looked at the time. Then I looked at the ring finger photo in his feed, the one with our hands folded over the fountain's blue. I looked at the watch I'd given him, because when I asked him once, years ago, what he'd wear on a wedding day, he'd grinned and said, a suit I can dance in and a watch that says I can be on time. I had saved for months. I had the receipt. I had the dent in my savings where love had lived unquestioned. I didn't respond in the chat. I took screenshots, not one or two, the whole thing. The context, the laughter, the repetition, the shamelessness dressed up as banter. My hands stopped shaking when I was done. Rage is a stabilizer. So is grief when it learns to stand. I forwarded the screenshots to Diane with a single line. I'm so sorry you're reading this, but you deserve to know before any more money is spent. What I didn't know yet, Diane had already spent $5,000 on a venue deposit, a retainer for a planner who sent me 7 mood boards on Monday, a mother of the groom dress she'd found on Tuesday. Diane Pierce, who'd hugged me and told me I was the best thing that ever happened to her son, called me within minutes, her voice small and shocked, as if language had betrayed her too. Elena, she said, I didn't raise him to be this. I know, I said, because I needed to believe it. I know. I left the office early. When I got home, the living room looked like we were still in Saturday's glow. flowers on the counter, congratulations cards lined up like a chorus. The bandbox sat open on the coffee table. Logan was on the couch, scrolling. He saw my face and must have seen the text history behind my eyes. He moved fast. The theatrics of remorse, the pleading tilt of the head, hands that reached for mine as if touch could rewind. Elena, baby, no. That was just guy talk. You know how Brandon is. They egg me on. None of it meant anything. You said you were keeping the band and the watch to milk gifts. He winced. I was joking. You said you'd slow play the date for 2 years to live rent-free. I didn't mean... And you compared me to Amanda's Eiffel Tower fantasy like we were trading in markets. Elena, my name was a prayer on sand. It was a joke. I have made a life's worth of allowances for men who call cruelty a bit. That night, I ran out. You need to be out by the 15th, I said. 30 days' notice starts now. His eyes changed. I watched it like weather. Guilt to anger to something colder. You're kicking me out? Over some screenshots? Over your words, I said. Over 4 years, clarified in 30 messages. He grabbed his phone and called Gordon, his stepfather. Put him on speaker because intimidation is an heirloom in some families. Gordon, he said, she's throwing me out. Why? Gordon asked. She's overreacting to jokes. Gordon, I said, I forwarded the chat to Diane. I think she'll share. Silence. A text pinged across Logan's screen. He read it. The corners of his mouth tried to hold composure and failed. Elena, he said, small now. You went to my mom? She'd already put deposits down. She deserved to know before she spent more. He stood so abruptly the bandbox snapped shut. You humiliated me. You did that yourself, I said. He slept on the couch that night. I packed a box for him, the things that were only his. I took the watch back and put it in my desk drawer where the receipts live. He noticed in the morning and didn't ask. By noon, my phone vibrated with 73 Instagram notifications, a story series that read like a manifesto. Logan. How I isolated him from friends, how I monitored messages, how I weaponized money. The comments split along predictable lines. His party boys clapping hands and flame emojis, people who knew me posting question marks before they got blocked. I didn't respond. I documented. Screenshots were my rosary. At 3:04 p.m., a new text arrived. From an unknown number I recognized as Brandon's. Logan, via Brandon. Here's what I want. $4K for emotional distress, half the furniture, 3 months rent for a new place, and the band, it was a gift. Also $2K for the inventory in my content studio. I read it once, twice. Then I wrote my own list. $18,000 for 2 years of rent, $23,000 for student loans I paid, $3,500 for Cabo, $2,000 for the MacBook, and a final line item I'll let a judge title. I didn't hit send. Not yet. I saved it to drafts. Then my phone rang. Diane. Elena, she said, and I pictured her at her kitchen counter with her hands around a mug just to hold on to something. I'm mortified. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault. I raised him better, or I thought I did. A breath. This isn't new. He's done versions of this before, Amanda, and one before her. I enabled it. We made excuses. I'm telling you because he's about to do something stupid. He's been on the phone with his cousin, the paralegal. They're plotting papers. I thought you should be prepared. Thank you, I said, and sat down because the world tilted on its axis, and I needed a chair to remind me of gravity. Thank you for telling me the truth. That night, the flowers on the counter started to smell like apologies. I opened my laptop, created folders labeled Evidence. I named the screenshots by date and time. I printed the receipt for the watch and slid it under a paperweight that had belonged to my grandmother. I reached out to Tony, my cousin, who has the law degree and the dry humor that makes panic look foolish. Send me everything, he said. Then breathe. I'll take it from here. In the quiet afterward, I lay on the couch where he'd slept, watched the ceiling lamp paint a circle on the white, and realized the circle was closing. It wasn't the proposal that was cringe. It was the character that came after. By Thursday morning, the apartment smelled like endings. The coffee tasted burnt no matter how carefully I brewed it. His sneakers by the door looked like something a stranger had forgotten. I should have felt peace. I'd drawn a line, taken back my dignity. Instead, I woke up to war. 73 Instagram notifications had only been the beginning. By the time I got to work, Logan had posted a full carousel of healing quotes over muted backgrounds, calling himself a survivor of emotional manipulation. He told his followers that I controlled every dollar and made him feel small. The comments were predictable. Proud of you for speaking your truth. She didn't deserve your heart. Men hurt too. I scrolled through every one, each word pressing down like thumbprints on wet paint. I didn't reply. I just took screenshots. Again, documentation had become my heartbeat. At noon, a message came from an unknown number. Brandon. Elena, Logan says you owe him for emotional distress. $4K, half the furniture, 3 months' rent, and the watch. It was a gift. Then a second text followed, this time directly from Logan. If you don't settle, I'll make sure everyone sees who you really are. I stared at the screen and felt nothing. Then I opened notes and started typing numbers. $18,000 in rent, $23,000 in student loans, $3,500 in Cabo flights, $200 for the MacBook. Total, $46,600. When I finished, I messaged him back. I don't owe you. You owe me. If you want to talk about settlements, we can do it in court. He left me on red. That evening, the phone rang again. Diane. Elena, she whispered. I just saw his stories. I'm so embarrassed. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, I said again. But she kept talking, like confession was the only way to breathe. He's done this before, she said. Amanda, remember her? He told the same kind of lies when she left. Claimed she was jealous, unstable, toxic. It's like a pattern. Something inside me softened, but it wasn't forgiveness. It was pity. Pity for a mother who'd watched her son become a headline she couldn't defend. By Friday morning, the headlines became legal threats. A courier arrived at my office with a white envelope marked, Notice of Legal Action. Inside, a half-baked complaint written by a paralegal cousin named Chad. The claims were absurd: unlawful eviction, breach of verbal contract, and emotional damages totaling $50,000. My laugh startled the receptionist. I called Tony, my cousin, who also happened to be a defense attorney with a wicked sense of humor. He read the complaint aloud, chuckling. This is the dumbest thing I've seen all month, he said. And last week someone tried to sue McDonald's for making them fat. Don't worry, we'll counter. Tony drafted our response that afternoon. Defamation for the Instagram lies, fraud for the engagement accepted under false pretenses, unjust enrichment for rent and loans. When I told Diane about it, she sighed. Good, she said. He needs to learn. Gordon and I decided no more bailing him out. Saturday morning, she called again. Elena, she said quietly, you should know, he's still lying. He's been talking to people about the better proposals. You know, Derek's yacht. Tyler's Paris trip? I checked. None of it's real. Derek's girlfriend is my niece. There was no yacht. Tyler and Amanda broke up 6 months ago. He made it all up to justify feeling superior. The truth didn't surprise me anymore. It just stacked neatly on top of the rest, like paperwork before trial. That night, my apartment finally went silent. No notifications, no pounding music from his room, no echo of apologies, rehearsed too many times, just quiet. And for the first time, it didn't scare me. I poured a glass of wine, sat by the window, and stared at the streetlights blinking against the rain. I'd spent 4 years thinking love was endurance, that loyalty meant forgiving someone faster than they could hurt you. But endurance without respect isn't love, it's erosion. At midnight, my phone buzzed again. A message from Gordon, his stepfather. Can we meet tomorrow? I hesitated, then typed, sure, 1 hour. When we met at the cafe, Gordon looked older than I remembered. He stirred his coffee for too long before speaking. Elena, I wanted to say this in person. I'm cutting him off, completely. I blinked. You mean financially? Financially, emotionally, everything. He slid a small folder across the table. Inside were screenshots from Logan's iCloud, messages between him and Brandon from before the proposal. She better spend at least $10K on the band or I'm walking. Plan, 2-year engagement, rent-free life, then bounce. If she doesn't upgrade our place after marriage, I'm gone, with half. Gordon's voice was flat. He's been using you since the start. I looked at the printouts, the casual cruelty disguised as strategy, and felt my pulse slow. Thank you, I said quietly. Use it, he told me. End it properly. Maybe then he'll finally learn. When I walked home, the city felt different. Cleaner, maybe. Or maybe it was just me, finally stepping out of a storm I'd mistaken for weather. The next morning, I woke up early, opened my laptop, and sent Tony everything. The screenshots, the group chat, the Instagram posts, even the iCloud messages. He replied 5 minutes later. Got it. This case is going to be open and shut. Then another text followed. By the way, you're handling this like a pro. Most people would have crumbled. I smiled at the screen but didn't reply. Strength wasn't something I'd chosen. It was something the betrayal had carved into me. Outside, dawn crept over the skyline, pale and forgiving. The city didn't know about the screenshots, the lawsuits, the whispers. It just kept breathing. So did I. The courthouse smelled like coffee and copier ink. Logan Pierce versus Elena Mae Sutton. That's what the docket said. Black letters on a white sheet taped to the wall. Funny, how much chaos can fit into 12 typed characters. I sat outside the courtroom with Tony, my cousin and attorney, flipping through the binder of exhibits. Screenshots, receipts, message threads, contracts, every word printed and tabbed in color-coded order. Tony, calm as ever, leaned back in his chair. Don't worry, he said. He's about to give the performance of his life, and we both know how bad he is at acting. The door opened. Logan walked in with his paralegal cousin, a man who looked like he'd learned law from TikTok. Logan wore a black suit and an expression of choreographed grief, the kind people use when they're trying to look like the victim. He didn't look at me, but his mother did. Diane sat 2 rows back, face pale but composed. She caught my eye and gave a small nod, half apology, half solidarity. When the clerk called our names, Logan's cousin rose first, adjusting his tie like it might grant him confidence. Your Honor, he began, my client has suffered severe emotional trauma and financial instability due to Ms. Sutton's actions. The judge, a woman in her 50s with tired eyes and a pen she twirled like a metronome, lifted a brow. Go on. He was unlawfully evicted from a shared residence, deprived of property, and humiliated publicly after Ms. Sutton posted defamatory content. Tony rose, calm but sharp. If I may, Your Honor, my client did no such thing. We have documented proof that Mr. Pierce fabricated multiple narratives, including but not limited to the circumstances of the engagement, his intentions regarding marriage, and his so-called distress. The judge nodded. Show me. Tony handed over the first exhibit, screenshots of the group chat. Logan's words, unfiltered, glowing under the projector light. The courtroom went silent except for the rustle of paper. Logan's face shifted from smug to pale as the judge read aloud. Keeping both through the holidays, might as well milk the engagement gifts. Rent-free life, let's go. If she doesn't upgrade after marriage, I'm out, with half. The judge paused. Mr. Pierce, did you write these messages? They were jokes, Logan muttered. Just guy talk. The judge leaned back. Jokes about defrauding someone? He swallowed hard. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Silence. Tony didn't smile, but I saw the flicker of satisfaction in his eyes. He flipped to the next tab. Exhibit B, Your Honor. Statements made by Mr. Pierce on social media. The projector screen filled with Logan's own Instagram stories. Long paragraphs accusing me of manipulation and control, overlaid with moody black and white photos of his face. Your Honor, Tony continued, these posts were seen by over 10,000 followers, damaging my client's personal and professional reputation. And yet the content contradicts his earlier private messages, which show deliberate exploitation of Ms. Sutton's finances and affection. The judge tapped her pen. And what about the claim of verbal contract? Logan's cousin shuffled papers. There was an understanding that Ms. Sutton would allow Mr. Pierce to live rent-free indefinitely in exchange for household management. Tony stood. If that were true, there would be some form of proof. Do you have any? No written proof, the cousin admitted. It was verbal. The judge's expression didn't change. Ms. Sutton, is this accurate? No, Your Honor, I said. He moved in temporarily after losing his roommate. I never promised anything permanent. In fact, I paid every bill. Tony handed the judge our exhibits. Bank transfers, receipts, lease documents, all in my name. Thank you, she said, scanning them quickly. Noted. Then Tony opened the final folder. Exhibit C, Your Honor. Messages from Mr. Pierce's iCloud, provided by his stepfather, Gordon Pierce. These messages predate the proposal. The cousin froze. Logan's eyes darted to Diane. She looked down. Tony read aloud. She better spend at least $10K on the band or I'm walking. Plan. 2-year engagement, rent-free life, then bounce. If she doesn't upgrade our place after marriage, I'm gone, with half. The judge let out a breath that sounded like disbelief. Mr. Pierce, she said, is this your iCloud account? He hesitated. Yes, but... No further explanation needed. She set the folder down and removed her glasses. Here's my ruling. Mr. Pierce, you admitted in writing to accepting a proposal under false pretenses, to defaming Ms. Sutton publicly, and to attempting to profit from deceit. This court finds your lawsuit frivolous. The eviction stands. Counterclaim is granted. You owe Ms. Sutton $15,000 in damages and legal fees. Logan blinked. What? You're punishing me for being a man. The judge didn't flinch. No, Mr. Pierce, you're being held accountable for being dishonest. He slammed his hands on the table. The bailiff took one step forward. Court is adjourned, the judge said. Logan shouted something about sexism and injustice as they escorted him out. His cousin gathered the papers, face red. Tony leaned toward me. Told you. Worst actor I've ever seen. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. My hands shook, not from fear, but from relief so sharp it almost felt like pain. When I stepped outside, Diane was waiting by the doors. Elena, she whispered. I'm sorry, truly. I don't know what else to say. I touched her arm gently. You already did enough by telling the truth. She nodded, eyes wet. I hope you find someone who knows what to do with a good thing. I didn't know if I would, but for the first time, I was sure I'd rather be alone than mistaken. That night, I walked home through the city's amber glow. The sound of traffic felt like applause. I wasn't angry anymore, just tired, free, and strangely grateful. Because now I knew love doesn't crumble when it ends. It just changes shape, waiting for someone honest enough to hold it right. The video hit TikTok before I even knew there was a video. Someone in the courtroom had recorded Logan's outburst. Him yelling about discrimination, the judge's dry reply, the bailiff guiding him out, and uploaded it with the caption, Gold Digger Gets Reality Check. By Monday morning, it had 1.8 million views. The comments were merciless. He really thought he was the main character. Imagine suing someone after scamming them. Justice served with a side of humiliation. I didn't post anything. I didn't need to. The world had done the explaining for me. Logan went private within hours, then public again, then private. His apology post disappeared before anyone could screenshot it. Almost anyone. I had mine saved. By the end of the week, his influencer friends, Brandon, Nate, and Kyle, had unfollowed him. One even messaged me. Didn't know he was like that. Sorry you went through it. Even Diane texted. Maybe this will finally wake him up. But if anything, it only pushed him deeper into denial. He started posting quotes about betrayal, resilience, phoenix energy. He launched a GoFundMe to recover from a toxic relationship. It raised $87 before someone linked the court ruling and the campaign vanished overnight. That's when I decided to end it quietly. No revenge, no interviews, just closure. I sold the watch and the platinum band to the same jeweler who made them. Got $7,200. I wired $5,000 to Diane to cover the deposits she'd lost and donated the rest to a financial literacy nonprofit. It felt symbolic, a repayment to karma, not just debt. Then I locked the jewelry box drawer and opened a new chapter. 2 weeks later, a message appeared in my inbox. Paul. Then another. Christopher. Both had dated Logan before me. Both had seen the viral clip. Both wanted to talk. We started a group chat. Half support group, half comedy roast. We called it the Logan Survivors Club. Paul shared receipts. Rent he'd covered. Vacations he'd funded. Christopher had old texts. Logan bragging about getting him to pay for a new iPhone before breaking up. He's done this to everyone, Paul wrote. You just happened to end it publicly. It wasn't vindication I felt. It was relief. Proof that the pattern hadn't started with me, and that ending it wasn't cruelty, it was prevention. A month after the trial, Gordon called. Elena, he said. Thought you should know. He finally moved into the studio apartment above our garage. We told him no more handouts. If he quits another job, he's out. How's he taking it? I asked. He's still posting motivational quotes about rising from the ashes, but this time, it's from a flip phone. He had to sell his iPhone to make his first court payment. I didn't laugh, but I smiled. There's a difference between schadenfreude and peace. I was finally learning the latter. Every month, like clockwork, a small deposit hits my account. $250. The memo line always changes. Temporary setback. Lesson learned. Rent money. At this rate, it'll take him 4 years to pay off the $15,000. With interest, maybe 5. I don't care. Every payment is a punctuation mark in a story I've already finished reading. 3 months after everything, I met someone new. Caleb, from my climbing gym. Our first date was at a coffee shop near the Botanical Gardens. He insisted on splitting the bill. When I mentioned the gardens, he said, "That place is beautiful, romantic even." I almost told him the whole story, but I didn't. Not yet. Some stories don't need to be told immediately. They need to settle into meaning first. A few weeks ago, I got an email from the financial literacy charity. Your donation funded a workshop for young adults learning how to identify financial manipulation in relationships. Would you consider speaking at our next session? I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, "Yes, I'd be honored." Because maybe that's what healing really looks like. Not revenge, not forgetting, but turning your worst chapter into someone else's cautionary tale. As for Logan, he's still in the studio, still posting vague captions about haters, still calling himself a survivor. But the world has stopped listening. Every once in a while, I check out of curiosity. One recent post caught my eye. The proposal wasn't cringe. The person was. For a second, I wondered if he meant me. Then I laughed. Maybe he was quoting me without realizing it, because he was half right. The proposal wasn't cringe. The love was real. The setting was beautiful. The moment was pure. It was his character that turned it sour. And I dodged more than a bullet. I dodged a lifetime of pretending that disrespect was romance. Now, when I walk past the gardens, I don't think of betrayal anymore. I think of light, of the way I got down on one knee for the wrong man but stood up as the right woman.